I'd like to call the meeting of the Sacramento Transportation Authority and the Abandoned Vehicle Service Authority for September 13th, 2018 to order. Madam Clerk, please take the roll.
Yes, ma'am. Directors Cruz.
Here.
Carr.
Here.
Slowey. Frost.
Here.
Gatewood. Gira. Hanson.
Here.
Howell. Hume.
Here.
Kennedy. Natoli.
Here.
Peters.
Here.
Chenier. Cerna.
Here.
Suen.
Here.
And Chair Harris. You have a quorum.
Okay. You want to read the statement?
Yes, ma'am. The meeting of the Sacramento Transportation Authority is cablecast live on Metro Cable 14, the local government affairs channel on the Comcast Consolidated Communications and the AT&T Uverse cable systems. The meeting is closed captioned and webcast at www.sacmetrocable.tv. Today's meeting will replace Saturday, September 15th at 2 p.m. and Sunday, September 16th at 2 p.m. on Channel 14. Members of the audience wishing to address the board, please fill out a speaker card located at the back kiosk at the back of the room and bring it to the clerk. Please speak into the microphone when addressing the board and state your name for the record.
Okay, would everyone rise and please join me in the Pledge of Allegiance?
I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Okay. So we're ready to go then?
Yes.
First item?
Yes, your first item is comments from the public regarding matters not on the posted agenda.
Okay. Jeffrey?
Good afternoon, Board. My name is Jeff Tartagia. I am, should we say, my comment is right now is when I looked at 10 o'clock, I could not find the access posted. So I'm presuming today is not streaming, but it's only going to be shown on Saturday and Sunday. Do not know whether your cablecast, operation had something else today or not, but I note it for you and remind you that most of the time, it's nice to be able to see you on TV, so I don't have to be here for this meeting. But that's a focus. There's several other things that are on the agenda, and I see some other changes are going on through there. So just want to remind you that the public is watching, and I'm hoping that better decisions will come out of this board in the future.
Thank you. Before we go on, I want to announce that agenda item 11 is going to be postponed until November 8th.
Okay.
Then your next items.
Your next item are your consent items. Matters 2 through 8 are in order for your consideration. And Mr. Hall has something to say on number 5.
Yeah, I'm going to ask the board members first. Do any board members have any comments they'd like to make? Other than please turn your phones off. Okay, no, Norm would like to make a comment.
Thank you.
On item 5.
This is regarding item 5. STA staff, we're very focused on making sure that the forecasts that we give to you and all the figures that we give to you are as good as they can possibly be. We really strive for great accuracy when we make those. With that in mind, I would like to just point out a variance in the Measure A revenues for the last fiscal year that just ended on June 30th. You'll see that we had originally projected that we would come in at, the sales tax revenue would come in at $122 million. And in the report, you'll see that actual revenues were booked at $119 million. And so that looks like we missed the mark by $3.5 million. But there's more to it than that. What we discovered is that at the state tax board, they actually have about 70,000 sales tax returns that they have not that they did not process in time for the June payment to us. And now it looks like we won't be receiving those revenues until about November, which will be too late for us to book for the last fiscal year that just ended. So the bottom line is this: it's going to look like we had under forecasted for fiscal year 2018 and that we over forecasted for fiscal year 2019. But when all said and done, I think we stand by our numbers. We think that we're going to be good if we had actually booked the revenues in the years that it was actually generated. So the reason I bring this up before you take action on this is I want the board and the public to have complete confidence in the figures that we put together. I think the numbers that we did are very good, and but unfortunately this happened, and so it looks a little bit off. But thank you.
So you'll be making a note on the financials so that people can track it when you're...
Yes, in fact, we'll come back with another report in December, and we may amend the budget at that time as well.
Okay. Any questions for Norm?
Motion to approve the consent calendar. Approved.
Okay.
Second?
I guess we're not using the voting. Okay. All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
No or abstain. Consent passes. Going to item 9.
Is the neighborhood shuttle program update?
In May, your board approved grants for the first 2 projects of the Measure A Neighborhood Shuttle Program, $400,000 for the SACOG Civic Lab Moving Youth to Jobs project, and $12 million for Regional Transit's microtransit shuttles. Today, you will receive your very first progress reports on those 2 programs. First up is Paratransit Executive Director Tiffany Fink.
Good afternoon, Chair, members. Do you have the PowerPoint?
Tell Metro Cable, you have the PowerPoint with Metro Cable?
Is that going to be the problem? Yes.
I'm hoping it's coming. Screen is changing. There you go. And there's usually a little remote down there to move the slides
This one or
forward.
this one? Okay. Thank you.
Okay.
So thank you very much. As you recall, we were here and we're very thankful that we received a $400,000 allocation for the Moving Youth to Jobs, which is otherwise known as workforce transportation for youth and young adults. And we're really excited.
If you could introduce yourself so everyone knows who you are, that'd be helpful.
So I'm Tiffany Fink. I'm the Chief Executive Officer at Paratransit, Inc., and I'm actually joined by Louise Friedlander, who is overseeing this program day to day and actually operating it.
Okay.
So just a little background, really brief. So obviously Paratransit has now been around for 40 years. We're a local public agency organized as a nonprofit, and we're dedicated to not only door-to-door service for the elderly and disabled, we are also the mobility management services provider for the SACOG region. So this goes beyond providing direct transportation, but looking for transportation coordination. The intern program currently is part of the youth initiative. North State Building Industry Foundation has a skilled trade internship that they pilot with Elk Grove Unified, and they do some work with Sac City Unified. And this program would give them access to our services, not those senior disabled services, but the rest of what we do, as well as some limited transportation. In addition, the program is designed to work with older youth who are continuing their education and employment goals post high school, and it goes up to age 24. Our big goal overall is that transportation not be a barrier to employment, because in this age group, that is the #1 challenge we've heard. So we're looking at addressing the fact that current transportation programs are having challenges effectively meeting the needs of youth and community members, that there's limitations to mobility options that create barriers to employment, and this is also having an economic development impact as we try and grow our community. So our goal of the project is to create a transportation solution to meet the needs of youth and members aged 16 to 18 and 18 to 24. It is broken out because there are restrictions on youth still in high school that don't apply to youth over, and we're doing it through software and other technology. So wanted to report, after we got the initial investment from you, we didn't stop there. We have formally joined with the Line Capital Region and are working with them to incorporate diverse and innovative approaches to this program. So the Line Capital Region program incorporates Los Rios, the school districts, and others to solve workforce education. SETA is an active participant, and so they've invited us to actually be part of that core group, both here in the region and broader. The North State BIA is continuing on the workforce development program for youth, and primarily in the academies and in the pilot in Elk Grove Unified, where they have students going to direct transportation. We are also seeing initial output in healthcare. There is a large interest for students participating and getting early access to healthcare jobs where there's a direct need. Elk Grove Unified is creating the solution to meet them, the youth's needs, and to get them gainfully employed into an internship. Some are paid, some are not, but they all lead to economic vitality. And we're happy to add that not only did SETA, or the Sacramento Employment Training Agency, join us as a partner to plan, they've actually pledged their resources as in-kind. So as we go off looking for other funds, we're able to count their non-transportation federal resources as in-kind match without putting up local dollars. So for us, that's very important to leverage it. Federal funds allow you to leverage federal funds from non-transportation. So a little bit about the achievements since receiving the funding, which we are very proud. We were the first civic lab project to be funded. So in July, we hosted an intern. So as part of the Civic Summer program, we wanted to show that we lead by example, so we actually took on an intern and had that intern work on this project as part of their Civic Summer to get not only job experience for that intern, but the whole idea is the program for youth at the youth level, so we wanted youth perspective from the rollout. In August, we were notified that we were awarded a $10,000 pop-up grant through the TDM, Transportation Development Management, from SACOG to do pop-up events. What this will do is give us the money to go out and do hands-on community outreach and giveaways, hands-on training to large groups. We're going to look at career centers, each of the junior colleges to actually be there doing one-on-one interactive, and that grant will allow us to do that outreach and leverage the STA funds even further. And that's all being scheduled. And then in September, we went, or in late August, we went to the Elk Grove City Council, where we're kicking this off to really energize that. We'll be back talking to you about going to your youth commissions and really getting grass level roots into this. We're excited that next Monday, the Paratransit Board will consider adding a new partner to this program. So there's been a lot of discussion about the high school age youth, but the program goes beyond that. It goes to the age 24. And so one of the things we've been looking at is how do we really capture the post-high school secondary group? And so Juma came to us. Juma is a social enterprise that's actually youth run. They act as an intermediary to an employer. They outreach to youth who need job employment. They tend to be students who are former foster students, lower income. They're in that gap where they seem to be losing their way from employment or education. Juma hires them, and then through contracts Juma has with agencies such as the Sacramento Kings, the Sacramento Republic, Rayleigh Field, they place students into jobs that have been allocated to Juma. Juma will be, if a board approved, Juma will be joining us to help us outreach to that age group, and if so, we've been asked to present a transportation literacy class for the 60 incoming adults being brought in for the Sacramento Kings season. Overwhelmingly, they've approached Juma with the fact they have transportation issues. They're heavily transit dependent. There's late night options that are an issue. We want to be able to not only provide them issues to the game, but issues home. And so we'll be doing that with an hour and a half. This is what you need to know about transportation. It'll include transit, but also things such as bike share and other options to them. So we're very excited, and this will continue through the year. Juma also is already a partner with BIA and working with them in other programs. So it allows us to fully get a range of spectrum outreach to these students and get more people successfully out and about in the community. Just some upcoming events. We're going to be participating in all the career nights coming up with Elk Grove Unified School District, as well as work with American River College, Sacramento City College, and other campuses as they move through their year. We will also be working with Sacramento City Unified and Elk Grove Unified for a branding competition. As I mentioned, we'll be using the youth to do a logo contest. We are going to reach out to the arts academies in each of the high schools, have the youth develop the logo, and then the youth pick what they believe the right logo is to outreach and use their input and their talent to help bring this program to fruition. And then we'll be working with Elk Grove Unified through the year to present a mandatory workshop. So students wishing to go internships will have to go through transportation literacy through this program prior to being given a job, regardless of if they identify a transportation need or not. because a car shouldn't be the only option you think you have. We've talked a lot about where we're at. I just want to let you know we're still going to continue. So on the longer horizon would be to use some application resources. We're going to be looking at Uber and Lyft, and in this case, it's pool resources. How can we find group sites where 5 or 6 riders can pool together and we can help them pre-schedule a trip, which isn't available to you as an individual, but we can access that infrastructure. The BIA will be bringing on the auto acquisition, which is working with employers to make fleet pool cars that are being retired available to programs to provide transportation or for interns to be able to use. Some work with driver's license training, and then we're going to assess the capabilities and need and come up with more solutions as it comes out. And so just to give you a quick overview to remind you, the committee at the top includes Rick Larkey from the business industry, Eric Johnson at SACOG, and myself. And this ultimately is the organization chart of everything at the end of the day we will be touching with this program. So we're excited to be here. We've done a lot. We have a lot ahead, but we're making a lot of progress and are really excited about the feedback we've received.
Okay, thank you. Any questions for Ms. Vink? Larry? Mr. Carr?
Tiffany, could you go back to the goal chart, the overall goal?
Is that the beginning, I'm thinking? Okay. I'm trying to figure out which.
It was on the order.
That one, goal, transportation will not be a barrier to employment.
Correct.
So how many people fall into the category where transportation is a barrier to employment?
In general, obviously it's a much bigger than youth problem. It's a large issue. We've been focusing on youth, which the feedback we've gotten is these programs such as, we've heard a lot about 1,000 Strong or other programs that are designed to it. Kids are interested, but transportation there's both the barrier from home to school, school to work, work to home, and they're different barriers based on where they live, is pretty great. There are a fair number of kids who have cars, but there are a lot of kids who also are choosing not to use cars. And so it's putting a hand on a true number is harder. The students that we've been reaching and the students we've been working with in the school district, the need they have if they're there is dire. So if you have a car, it's great. Everyone else is struggling. And the number one feedback we've gotten from the employment side is that they're having a lot of students not even try because they don't have an idea how they would ever get there, so they're not even going after the opportunity. One thing I can say is we've already had discussions that long-term, while this model will start with youth, it also fits very well with return to work, so re-entry for older adults or for people re-entering the workforce or the welfare to work return. And so the idea is that this isn't a model that will stand alone while we're focused on youth now. We believe that over time there's the ability to be able to use this in other ways in other parts of the community to access other areas where there's transportation as a barrier to employment. In the past though, the biggest challenge in solving this issue has been finding the people who need it. We ran a program which worked with welfare to work, but we had to go solicit the people, which isn't what we do.
Yeah,
the value in this is that the school district is telling us it's a problem.
I appreciate your focusing on youth, I get it. So this would be, the goal should be youth will not have a barrier to employment because of transportation. But how many youth are in that situation? And the point I'm getting to is that unless we know how many we have, how would we know if we actually do it?
That's where we're relying largely on the school districts, agencies such as SETA and others who have the bigger picture in the workforce development. They're looking at internships and they have the data where they're looking at how many students are telling them they have a car, how many have identified the gap. Well, we're focused on helping solve those where the gap has been needed. Part of the program is bringing everyone together through that aligned capital region to look at the big picture so we can look at where did we start, where did we end, where could we get to more.
Understand the point is that unless there's a lot of activity that you just went through, and the question comes, what did it accomplish? How many students were without transportation and that made them have a barrier to employment? And how many did we get to employment and how many are left? And so that I think you really need to look at this goal and get something more definable.
And that is actually one of our goals. Is we're in the kickoff. It's been setting it up. School just went back. A lot of the internships and things had already been placed, and so students who didn't apply were in the last round. But we're looking, that's why part of what we're focusing on are the students looking at next year's opportunities or next year's semesters. And that's why with Juma, we're really focusing on the group they're onboarding right now into this, who've told them, I want a job, but I think transportation's an issue. And that's why they've approached us to try and immediately not only get from planning to implementation. So we will, as we do further updates, be able to tell you this is how many people were trained, this is how many we outreached, how many took advantage of it, and how often they're writing.
Okay, Mr. Hanson has a comment.
Thank you, Chair Peters. I just want to say many of us serve up here with multiple hats, you know, city council, county supervisors. One of the pleasures I have, along with Director Hume and formerly Director Ntoli, is to serve on your board, and this is an example of how paratransit's innovating, and it's all because of your leadership. I want to thank you. We know that the agency's been evolving pretty quickly over the last couple of years to meet the new challenges of serving its existing riders, but also trying to fill gaps like this. And I think paratransit is a wonderful agency, and you're doing a great job. So thanks, Tiffany.
Thank you.
Any other questions or comments? Mr. Swin?
Yeah, thank you. Yeah, Tiffany, I just wanted to echo those comments. I know you're working with my colleagues, Councilmember Hume and Councilmember Nguyen, who is also very knowledgeable about workforce. I just wanted to express here that if there's anything the City of Elk Grove can do through my colleagues or any of us on the council, if we can support your efforts. You're working with the school district now, but if there's a more deliberate or specific way the city can be involved to help you, we're here to help.
Thank you very much, and I can let you know we've already discussed the idea of making the transportation literacy a part of the summer program next year to make every student going through the program have to go through it because they don't realize the options available. They only think car.
Right. Perfect. Thank you.
Any other questions? Okay, thank you very much for your report.
So much.
Next up is Regional Transit's VP of Planning and Accountability, Laura Ham.
Good afternoon, Chair Peters and directors of the STA Board. I'm Laura Ham with Sacramento Regional Transit. So we're pleased to provide you with an update this afternoon about SAC-RT's Smart Ride demonstration project.
It'd be helpful if you stand between the microphones, pull them in, and maybe the person with you can stand over in front of the other podium.
Thank you for the tip. We were trying to avoid the echo.
Yeah.
Is that better?
Yes.
Okay.
Thank you.
So my presentation partner today is Alva Carrasco, SAC-RT's Deputy Chief Operating Officer and Project Manager for Smart Ride. She's going to start off with sharing more information with you about our project timeline and service operation to date.
Thank you, Laura. Good afternoon. Thank you for allowing me this opportunity to talk about Smart Ride, our microtransit pilot project that started in February of this year.
Could you introduce yourself, please?
Oh, my name is Alva Carrasco, Deputy Chief Operating Officer. And I'm also the project manager for this pilot.
Thank you.
Just a little background. We started the planning for this project late last year. We started with some simulation modeling that the scheduling software vendor provided us of the area in Citrus Heights. As you know, that was our first pilot launch. And we met in December as a group and looked at how we can implement this new way of delivering service to Citrus Heights with the existing staffing and vehicles. We wanted to do something fairly quickly, but we really wanted to make sure we thought it out to make sure that we had the appropriate resources to launch the service. By January, by the end of December, we realized that we can launch the first pilot in February, so the staff got rolling and started training our employees, our operators, and our dispatchers, and got our marketing department involved to do extensive outreach to the city of Citrus Heights. As you may know, it started by taking City Ride in the city of Citrus Heights and rebranding it, taking the vehicles we were using for that service and the operators, retraining them to use this scheduling software to do Smart Ride. So In February, we launched the service in Citrus Heights. In April, we expanded the service to include Orangevale and to touch upon our light rail station at historic Folsom. And then just recently in July, we launched a second pilot. It's actually another pilot. We launched in the Franklin Boulevard, South Sac area. And our next demonstration pilot will be, or is planned, tentatively planned, because things change all the time, downtown, the Midtown area that includes East Sacramento and Sac State. So currently we are still analyzing ridership and data analysis, because this is an on-demand service. The needs can literally fluctuate on a real-time basis. Just again, for a little bit background, here's the map of the Citrus Heights service area. We started in the middle with Citrus Heights and in February, and then in the second phase of this pilot, we extended out to Antelope, Orangevale, parts of Fair Oaks, and to the historic light rail station. When we started Citrus Heights Smart Ride service, we started off with 4 dedicated vehicles for the service area. When we expanded the area and the service hours, we used to run only from 7 a.m. to 7 p.m. We extended the hours to start at 6 a.m. and up through 9 p.m. We, at that time, doubled the number of vehicles to 8. Our latest launch pilot is the Franklin South Sacramento area. As you know, this area is a disadvantaged community, and it's about a little bit less than 13 square miles. We had a ribbon cutting, I think it was August 1st, where Congresswoman Matsui and many of you and some of our elected officials attended, and we've seen a very good response in this area. I think we're in our 5th week of service, 5th or 6th week of service, and we're already seeing almost 100 riders per day. This is absolutely wonderful news for this area. Citrus Heights, we had a customer base, and we knew that we would at least have 30 rides per day. So for Franklin, we didn't really have a customer base to go to as we did in Citrus Heights. It's absolutely wonderful that we're already up to 100 people a day taking the service. And I'll let Laura continue from here.
So this slide illustrates the zones that we have proposed to you so far. The next service to launch is our Phase 4 that you'll see in green on this map labeled Phase 4. We'd originally proposed 2 separate zones for downtown, midtown, and Sac State, but are now proposing merging the 2 zones on a demonstration basis, since it's a smaller service zone combined actually than either of our existing services. It's about 10 square miles total. And if you noticed on the prior slide, Franklin's a little over 12. So it includes downtown, midtown, and East Sacramento. It'll serve the transit center at Sac State, as well as providing service to numerous medical, shopping, and employment centers, and last mile connectivity to other fixed route service. As we said to you in our prior presentations, this type of service in the downtown area is more experimental in nature and tapping a different market, we believe. We believe that our existing fixed route bus and light rail service provides a convenient alternative to bring riders in and out of downtown, but that we don't do such a good job of moving people around the downtown, midtown, and East Sacramento areas. We'll also test demand for late night and weekend service with this zone. We will run extended hours on this service as well. We expect it to launch early next year as soon as we receive delivery of our next vehicle order, which Alva will talk to you about in just a little bit. And over the coming months, we'll refine the zone and develop a marketing plan for implementation. Our other service proposals are focused on areas where we have identified underserved communities with lower population density or where local service may be lacking in some communities. I'll show you a more detailed map of the proposed North Sacramento and Del Paso zone on the next slide, which is, on this slide is the green zone just above Phase 4. It's the second green one. So we've also proposed zones for Rancho Cordova, Arden Arcade, Carmichael, and the eastern portion of South Sacramento, and we're in discussions with Folsom and Elk Grove regarding zones in each city.
If you'd just pause for a moment, Mr. Cerna.
Yeah, before you advance that slide, Laura, if you can go back to the other one.
Or,
So it seems to me that of the areas that the pilot currently serves and those that we expect to serve, Sac State is going to be fairly unique in that you just have a high concentration of potential riders there. And given what Smart Ride is and isn't, and my understanding is that if you reach a particular critical mass, the ride is free, correct me if I'm wrong, for passengers.
5 or more. Yeah, 5 or more.
5 or more. So if you have a bunch of really smart students at Sac State that know how to game a system, or so to speak, what do we think might happen with that high concentration of folks that might actually, coordinate pretty rarely to benefit from free transportation, and what does that do to the revenue that we might otherwise capture for the system?
So I'll let Alva chime in if she'd like to, but we are monitoring very closely. The Citrus Heights service is extremely popular. The demand is pretty high. We've had some large groups, field trips, in fact, on the Citrus Heights service. It's something we'll be monitoring closely, and we're continuously balancing resources and demand. So right now what we're able to do is put additional vehicles and drivers out there without having to add additional staff. We're able to use our current staff. It's something we'll have to look at as to whether we need to pull it back, to redesign the service, or cap the trips at a certain number.
Are there other systems like this, or where you have a threshold where the rides are discounted or free, that are applied in other communities that have universities that are being served? Do we? So we are a true guinea pig on this one?
Yes.
Okay.
Yes.
All right.
So we're going to be watching it day by day, and we'll report back to you.
Thank you.
Just a moment. Mr. Hanson?
Yeah, I just wanted to, when you were talking about the Midtown, Downtown Phase 4 piece, I think one of the things that gets lost is we have a lot of transportation services that go through that area, but most of them are for long trips. Light rail is really for long trips. The commuter buses from Elk Grove, Roseville, YOLO bus, those are long trips. So I think this does fill a need to connect between different types of service, and whether it's Sac State or some of the other users, I think it'll be interesting to see if people begin to use this more. As we've discussed at the RT board, the lack of a central city fare means that there is a gap, and this could really fill that gap. So I just, as we go into planning, I'd like to think more about how we reach those particular audiences.
Yes.
Yep.
Thank you.
And I have a question before you go further.
Okay, sure.
This map is interesting in that you skipped over a major population in Arden Arcade and Carmichael, and you go right up on the edge of it if you're at Sac State. So what was the reasoning there?
Actually, as we've looked at this route, we're looking at the availability of fixed route service and where we may have some gaps. We also looked at the disadvantaged community population designation with the county. So there were a number of factors that we looked at. That said, we certainly would welcome any feedback on that specific zone if you have suggestions for areas we may not be serving.
Well, I'd have to see what information you have, but I know Arden Arcade has a pretty heavy disadvantaged community, and I know they need help getting to American River College and to work. It just seems odd seems like you would go march down the line, and nothing against Citrus Heights or Orangevale and Fair Oaks. I just don't understand
So I'm thinking that the next time we come back to you and give you an update, we'll be closer to being ready to run a simulation on that service. And if we overlay it with the existing fixed route services, that might be helpful so you can see where we can provide connectivity to other existing services.
And Carmichael
as
has an
well.
older population too, and a lot of them are getting to the point where they don't drive. So I'd be happy to talk to you about it offline if you want to.
That would be great. I would appreciate the feedback.
Darren?
Thank you, Chair. I'm just, for the record, really excited to see you come to Elk Grove. I'm seeing that future zone. I hope we can move it up pretty quick. I think it's going to be a great test pilot in our community. So I have high hopes. Thank you.
I think it would be a good fit as well. I understand that you've got existing dial-a-ride service that might be ideal to convert to this type of service.
Great.
Okay.
Okay, I think now you can go on to your next slide.
Okay.
I had a
Sacramento.
question, Chair.
Ms. Frost?
I had a question.
Back to this one.
Did I not show up on the? I
No,
probably
we're not
didn't.
using that today.
Oh, gosh, sorry.
At least I don't have a screen, so.
Okay. I wanted to thank you and let you know that my area, Citrus Heights and Orangevale and Folsom and Antelope, are really excited about the whole Smart Ride thing. The question I have relates to the time. You said you extend the time to 9 p.m. and do you think there will be a time when the ridership, it goes later, like on event nights, like if there was a Kings game and people were going to ride to the Folsom station to go down to the game, will there be a time when those individuals can access ridership later from time to time?
Yeah, I'd say that's something we're always willing to look at within our existing resources. I think we're going to get to a point where vehicles and drivers and available funding might be an issue to expand all of these, but as we look at it as a whole, where we see the demand to do those kinds of things, we'd definitely be willing to consider it.
And
I don't know how many requests we've had for that. Alva might be able to answer that question.
may
I
not.
haven't received any personally.
Okay.
I think the city of Citrus Heights would.
We couldn't hear what you said.
I personally have not received any requests, but we have spoken to Mary Poole, and she would love to see weekend service. That is being requested by community members in Citrus Heights.
And on this, on the map where it shows Arden Arcade and Carmichael, it seems like it's very close to the Watt Avenue station, and I know it seems to be really exciting that we're that my entire service area of Antelope to Folsom connects them to the light rail. Is there a connection from Carmichael to the light rail, and will you be expanding into Antelope?
It's not proposed to connect to Watt I-80 is actually in the green zone, the North Sacramento zone that I'm just about to talk about. That little triangle up in the top right-hand corner is where the Watt I-80 station is located. Now, there is demand, certainly in the existing Citrus Heights area, for connections to the Folsom Light Rail Station, and we've had quite a few trips going there. Certainly connectivity to light rail seems to be of a lot of interest to riders, more so than we anticipated at first. It was something we just wanted to try out, but there seems to be quite a bit of demand for it, so I think that's something we want to consider as how we're connecting to light rail services.
Seems like for Carmichael, that would be wonderful for those commuters that are going downtown.
I agree. I live in Carmichael, so I think that would be great. Okay, so here is the North Sacramento route, and again, the blue dot up in the little triangle on the right, you'll see the Watt I-80 light rail station, as well as connectivity to Roseville Road and Arden Del Paso. So when I spoke to you last in May, we heard a strong desire to look at a North Sacramento route. So since that time, we've coordinated with the County of Sacramento staff to learn more about phase one of the county's EJ plan. We've worked with a number of community advocates in the North Sacramento area to design this zone and serve key destination points. This service will offer improved local circulation, provide connectivity to existing fixed route service at several transit centers, including Arden Fair Mall, served by bus and light rail, and we expect that it'll be launched in the springtime. There's been some prior discussion about connecting the Antelope Zone to Watt I-80, and serving RT's Blue Line, we could consider that as well, rather than the connection to the historic Folsom Station. There's not a lot of ridership coming out of the Antelope area, so that might be something we would want to look at. So I'm going to hand it back to Alva for the next few slides to talk about service stats.
Thank you, Laura.
Ms. Frost?
Yes.
I just wanted to, I don't think a lot of people know about it yet. So, we haven't had a lot of time in Antelope yet, so I think it might increase as time goes by, as they learn about it.
Thank you. We haven't written off Antelope, just so you know. I watch daily. The next slide is our total daily ridership since the service was implemented back in February. I know it just looks like a graph and you see riderships going up, but we see a lot of information in this graph and how the expansion of the service and launching service in Franklin has affected overall ridership. And just to take you back to Citrus Heights, City Ride service was averaging 30 passengers per day in 2017. Today, that service, as you can see, we're seeing, this week I'm seeing ridership up in the 280, 300 range. It's done remarkably well in the Citrus Heights expanded service area. And so we just put some arrows to kind of show you where those big jumps came in ridership. Productivity is one of my favorite topics for Smart Ride. It is not very easy to explain because of the nature of the service. The demand is what really is driving the productivity, and that number of vehicles that we have out there at any given time affects the demand, the productivity. So the simplest way I can explain it to the group and to our audience and our panel, our chairs, members, is just for comparison, our city ride service in Citrus Heights, we averaged about a 2.25 passengers per revenue hour. And revenue hour is basically every hour that the service is in full service. And if you look at this graph, in February, we really were experimenting with the service. We were learning how it worked, how the demands fluctuate throughout the day. And you'll see that our boardings per revenue hour are under 2 in the very beginning of our launch. As the pilot moved on and staff began to learn how to manage the services, the revenue, the boardings began to increase, demand started to increase rather. So we were learning how to pull back and put back vehicles at any given time to meet the demand. So for instance, in Citrus Heights, the demand peaks in the middle of the day, which if you're familiar with fixed route, peak is during AM rush hour and PM rush hour. So now we had a service that in the middle of the day was showing us the highest demand. So reacting to that and making sure our resources were available was very important. So over time, we have learned to really be able to react to the demand that's going on real time. And the last few months, I would say July and August are really good months for us. We launched Franklin service, so we knew we had to be on our toes on watching that demand and how to respond to it with our vehicles. Again, it's a balancing trick. We have to watch the number of our vehicles, watch the demand, and make sure they match up and really get a nice sweet spot where we don't have too many vehicles out there, because that's going to bring our productivity down, which means higher costs. But if we keep our productivity up, have the right number of vehicles, have reasonable wait times for your trips, that saves the agency money. We're getting more for our buck, I should say.
Excuse me a moment. So these numbers are boardings for all the routes. Not this isn't Citrus Heights.
Correct. It's for, yes, but it's per revenue hour. So for instance, if we have 12 hours total in one day, that's one vehicle. One vehicle averages 3 point or 0.5, or depending on what the number is.
So what I'm after is, I think people would like to know in the areas they represent how well the service is being used. So, I mean.
Could I make a
Yeah.
suggestion that would help?
Please do.
Understood.
If this chart could be divided by service area, and then just with different colors signify, Citrus Heights started first, so I'm guessing there's more bulk there as the other
Correct.
develops. So if you could just show in email, Norm could send it to the board, like
Sure.
what it looks like, because I think Susan's, Director Peters' point is well taken.
Okay.
Thank you.
Understood. Yes.
Anyone else? Ms. Frost?
Absolutely.
I wonder if you have any idea how the ridership with the Smart Ride compares to the old bus routes. Is your ridership way up?
On our fixed route?
Yeah,
Or-
when we went from the old fixed route bus routes to the Smart Ride on demand, is the ridership up quite a bit from there?
In Citrus Heights?
Anywhere?
So,
Or do we have those?
so for
that
Franklin,
information?
I would say it's too soon to make any comparisons to what used to be there, which I understand was several years ago. With Citrus Heights, I don't know of any fixed route that used to.
Well, I would say definitely compared to the city ride. The city ride was averaging about 30 rides per day compared to the Smart Ride, which is over 200 in the same area.
So it's way up.
Yes.
Yes, the dial compared to the dial-a-ride service. at
Yeah,
Citrus
and
Heights.
that's really the only straight comparison we can do. It's kind of apples and oranges when you compare it to a standard fixed route bus.
Okay, we did have some fixed routes where there was only one person, 2 people riding the whole day. So, I mean, they had to cancel the route because of it. So I was just curious. Thank you.
The Route 95 in Citrus Heights, that I think it actually averages about 5 passengers per hour, which is
Correct.
not that great for a fixed route bus, but
Yeah,
different than on-demand.
but it is
service.
way up. That's great. Thank you.
Thank you.
She's asking about 10 and 11 is what she's asking.
Okay. Another interesting fact about the service is the use of app scheduling versus calling in. If you see this graph, February through July is mainly our customer base from Citrus Heights, Orangevale, Antelope area. And it was hard to get our City Ride customers to switch to the app. They really liked calling our dispatchers and having a conversation and talking to them about where they're going and why they're going there and what they bought at Walmart. And unfortunately, in about July, we had to move the phone reservation option to our customer service agents. It was just too many calls were coming in, and our dispatchers couldn't dispatch anymore. So we made that change in July, and now we have a group of, I believe, 8 customer service agents at any given time that will take reservations over the phone. But of course, the app is still available, and so we started seeing the app usage go up when we launched Franklin. On the Franklin Boulevard service area, about 70% of the customers are using the app or going online to book their ride, which is really awesome.
Do you see a demographic, sorry, Madam Chair, do you see a demographic change between those groups, as one younger, one older, or is it simply that one was brought into the app first, so they're using that? Because that really does reduce costs and increases accuracy, probably.
We don't have actual demographics. We know what the census data tells us about the demographics in each of the areas, but we're actually going to launch a survey in this fall to really get good demographic information on our customers. So I'm sure we will come back with that information.
Okay, anyone else? Go ahead.
Thank you. Challenges. So of course, we're in our 7th month of this pilot. We extended a little bit because we don't want to stop the service. It's uber popular. I shouldn't have said Uber. That is not a word in our vocabulary.
Well, Uber's popular too, so.
You know, we planned for the worst and we planned for the best scenarios in this pilot. And one of them was, can we be reactive about if ridership grows, you know, just blows up? And it certainly has gradually grown, especially in Citrus Heights. We've had some days where we're hitting 340 riders a day, and which is amazing. It's amazing for that area because we really didn't know what the demand was going to be. So with that comes other challenges. One is to be able to react real time, making adjustments in the number of vehicles. Bringing customer service agents online was another piece of a growing demand, is training them and making sure that they know how to respond to our customers' needs. That is definitely a challenge we are very, very happy to deal with, and I expect the ridership to continue to grow in both areas. In the Franklin area, we're seeing the numbers hit almost 100 people per day. Franklin has already outpaced in growth the Citrus Heights area. So we are, again, planning for the inevitable need to add more service out there and adjusting the service depending on the demand.
Quick question.
What's your average trip wait time?
For Franklin, I just did that report this morning. The average is about 29 minutes.
How about others?
The Citrus Heights, because the demand is a lot higher, it could range between 45 minutes and 50 minutes. And of course, and if
I would assume the other areas are probably similar to Franklin, half an hour, like Antelope and.
well, the Citrus Heights area is different in that the service area is larger, so it takes longer for the vehicle to go to any given point.
Okay, so then you mentioned Franklin and Citrus Heights.
Mm-hmm.
Any other areas that you know the stats on?
Those are the two service areas we have.
Citrus Heights, Antelope,
They're all in one?
are
Okay.
one
Combined.
big area.
I forgot that, sorry.
It's combined,
Okay,
yes.
someone else had a question. Was it you, Larry?
Yes, in the Franklin area, what are you seeing in the way of destination? Is it to the public transportation, or is it to the hospital, or to the grocery
I'm glad
store?
you asked that question. I did an analysis late last week, and the number one destination are light rail stations. We have about 5 or 6 of them, I think. So we have 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 7 or 8 light rail stations. Combined, they are the top destination in the Franklin Boulevard area.
And they get a transfer from that to the light rail?
Yes.
And if it's 5 or more, do they get the transfer as well?
I'm sorry?
If it's 5 or more, do they get the transfer to
The transfers
light
are not
rail?
included.
Okay, thank you.
Ms. Frost?
Good question.
Do you, have you thought of possibly for a month or two designating one day a week where if they use the phone app, they get the ride for free or less expensive, to try to coax or incentivize them to begin using the app? Because it seems like the app would be so much easier than making the phone call, and if they just got in the habit of it, they'd go, oh, I don't know why I was making those phone calls.
Yeah, that's a good idea. I'll bring that up.
Thank you.
Especially in Citrus Heights.
Yeah, I mean, I just need to figure that out.
Yeah. Thank you.
Okay. Does that complete your presentation?
Just a couple more challenges that if you're interested in hearing about. We are working with the software developer to make some improvements to the scheduling software. It does come with some glitches, and we are working with them to help us remedy those things. Things like notifying customers of more accurate not delivery times, I'm thinking of Amazon Prime. Arrival times, thank you. And again, just an ongoing balancing wait times with our available resources. I want to share that we did not purchase additional vehicles. We didn't hire extra staffing to do this. We absorbed it. In fact, I'm actually 2 dispatchers down due to vacancies and hope to get those filled right away to help manage the service.
Okay.
Thank you. Lastly, just a little bit about the future of Smart Ride. Laura touched upon looking at weekend and late night service in the downtown area. This is an area where we'd like to go all app. It would certainly make things a lot easier resource-wise.
If you could, please, we have to be out of here in 25 minutes, and we still have other things on the agenda. If you could give us the high points.
Last slide. Again, refining our service zones. Thank you for the $12 million in funding. We don't want to leave without saying that. And we're looking at procuring 6 electric battery vehicles with the help with HVIP vouchers to test on our microtransit services very soon. Thank you.
Complete your presentation? Okay, thank you very much. And this is a receive and file, so.
Next item is your community perspectives on local transportation needs and funding.
As your board begins considering another transportation sales tax measure, I started inviting community groups to come to the board to share their perspectives on what their transportation needs are and ways to fund them. Last month we heard from Valley Vision, ECOS, and Transportation California, and today we have 2 more speakers. The first up is Nathan Ulsh. He's the Executive Director of the Franklin Boulevard Business District. And by the way, I had promised Nathan that I'd get him out of here at 2:30, so because he has another meeting. But I have
a board meeting at 3, as Supervisor Cerna knows. So, good afternoon. My name is Nathan Ulsh. I'm the Executive Director of the Franklin Boulevard Business District, as well as the Franklin Neighborhood Development Corporation. I do want to say thank you for having me here today, Chair and Directors. We have 160 property owners, 600 businesses, 7,000 employees, 10,000 neighborhood residents in the area that I serve and represent, seeking for solutions, short and long-term problems that we face regarding economic, business development, safety, and transportation. This is one of the maps. I promise I only have 2 slides, if that. But that said, the success of the Smart Ride, we deem it a success because we haven't had a bus in our district for quite some time, specifically in the heart of our district. And so for people to access, our measure of success is allowing people to access certain points, and one of which is actually within our district. So I'm going a little off script for timing purposes. But trying to get people from point A to point B, as well as increasing ridership as the partnership we have with SAC-RT. But this all really came to light during SACOG Civic Lab. I see Rafe back there. Very great partner in our endeavors, as well as RT, when we were trying to find mobility solutions for our disadvantaged community. We checked several boxes, and I say that a bit heavily because we are low income. Our area median income is about $30,000. We're in the disadvantaged community, so high pollutants, high greenhouse gases, and a lot of vehicle miles traveled in our area. We have a lot of older vehicles as well because of the demographic we have, 30,000 AMI once again. We also serve about 48% of our district are Latinos. And so with this app, we decided to roll out, and I commend RT actually for coming to us and saying, how do we do this? Because a government agency, normally it's top down, but in this scenario, it's actually top down plus bottom up, which is great. And that wouldn't have happened actually without the funding of STA, so I do want to thank you for that opportunity. That said, we do have several other projects that we are working on. We're looking at $20 million for the Complete Streets project. We have one city tree. We have no parks. We don't have any bike lanes. I see Jim from Saba back here. No bike lanes. Walkability is very hard because it's hot out. But because of that, we've secured, or we've applied for funding, I should say, not secured. Part of that 11 million, or 20 million, we applied for 11 million with several key partners in that endeavor. So that said, you know, our community is looking for ways to connect to other parts of Sacramento, and I think Alva alluded to that. in RT of people are hopping onto light rail. And that's important for us because how are we getting people in and out of our community is very important. But then also how are people traversing in our community? So not just Franklin, but down in Councilmember Carr's district, he has, and Jennings, they have other services that our people need access to, such as Kaiser Permanente and other health services. So it's very important for us to continue this opportunity. We have investment from Electrify America as they've come forward and we've secured some funding through them for electric vehicles, once again in partnership with RT. But we can't do this alone. That said, I do look forward to further conversation about potentially Measure A or other funding opportunities and partnerships in our endeavor to better our community. So thank you.
Are there any questions for Nathan?
That was really quick.
Okay.
I'm sorry.
Thank you so much. Good luck with your board meeting.
Thank you.
Take smart ride there. I think our next presenter is Glenda Marsh from Sacramento 350. Thank you, Glenda.
Hi. So my name is Glenda Marsh. I'm a volunteer on the transportation team with 350 Sacramento, which is a local chapter of an international organization focused on addressing climate change. So our perspective on transportation is essentially here in our area is that our number one contribution to climate change and greenhouse gases is vehicles. It's from automobiles and gasoline vehicles. And the fossil fuel energy that we use to run our transportation system. So our focus here in Sacramento County is what can we do when we're trying to address those pollutants that are contributing to climate change. So that's what we do. That's what we're focused on, addressing that number one contributor, vehicle emissions that we produce here. Our long-term vision is really about how we as the public and the community in Sacramento County can invest in the next generation transportation system that is a productive transportation system. And the productivity is measured in how well it reduces greenhouse gas emissions, as well as providing us mobility, right, so that we can go about our affairs every day, no matter who we are. So investing in a investing in a transportation system where there's a new paradigm where each one of us as people seeking mobility, needing to go somewhere today, this moment, we have a quantifiable stake in the transportation mode that we use for the particular trip we need to make. And so that our individual contribution towards that, those emissions reductions is measurable. And we know as individuals, when we're making a transportation choice to get somewhere, we know we're choosing from options that can help fight that fight. So as an example, I would offer a book, Street Fight. I don't know if anybody here has read that, by Janet Sadiq Khan. She was the transportation commissioner in New York City a few years ago, and she wrote this book called Street Fight. And in it, she's basically asking us to see transportation in ways we've never imagined. And when I'm listening to all the presentations here today, they're fascinating. And what I'm experiencing is that right now we are already underway in our community with a paradigm shifting around transportation. We're trying out different things, and we're seeing how the public, the people who want mobility, are responding to those different kinds of modes and these new experiments that we're doing. So I think that's really positive, and I think that is helping us transform our transportation system here, helping us see where public dollars can be invested. And the thing that I would ask is that as we're thinking about and experimenting with these different transportation modes, that we're also thinking about how can we measure the reduction in greenhouse gas emissions from any of those modes and make that a part of the evaluation for what modes should get greater investment going forward, so that the outcome is reduction in greenhouse gases and increase in mobility. And I really want to kind of talk about mobility.
I'm really sorry, we're running really short on time, and we still have 2 more items and a couple speakers. So if you don't get all the way through, we can maybe have you come back, but if you're close to the end, that would be really helpful.
2 things that I would ask the board here to do. as they're considering future investments in transportation. We would like to see the board help champion dialogue between the various stakeholders who have an interest in transportation, whether it's businesses, construction companies, or different public organizations that have different concerns. We'd like to be able to meet with different stakeholders and talk about the different trade-offs, how we would maximize and optimize everybody's goals for transportation spending. So we'd like to really have that opportunity. We'd like to also ask the STA board to help our cities and county here better integrate mass transit infrastructure with city and county planning, transportation planning departments and whatnot. Lastly, we are advocating that in a future sales tax measure that mass transit, and this would be regional transit, be able to obtain at least 50% of that revenue to help meet their budget goals for the future, to implement the kind of mass transit transportation system that we think is going to be needed, both for mobility and also to reduce greenhouse gases in our county.
Okay, thank you very much.
Thank you.
I do have two speakers on this, on item 10, Colin Jackson Jr. and then Angela Herring Jackson.
Good afternoon. Giving respect to the board, members and friends.
Ms. Jackson, we do have a 3-minute limit.
Yes.
Even though I don't.
So I am here to ask the powers that be to take into consideration having the Smart Ride shuttle for North Natomas. I believe that that community is not served to the best of its capability that it could be. My son, along with some of his friends, have to commute, and North Sacramento on the other side of I-5 is being underserved. Unfortunately, the RT does not go out that way, and I would like and would appreciate if the powers that be would take into consideration funding the Smart RT to service that community. There's apartments, geriatrics, you name it, everyone in North Natomas. It would be a blessing if the Smart Ride would be available to that community. My son was the only child taking the Natomas Flyer, which is a commuter for adults, just to get to his school. So I just wanted to put my 2 cents in. Hopefully somebody will listen. Hopefully it could happen soon. I think it's a great project and it will benefit so many individuals. I'm an advocate for it. If someone can get back to me to let me know what can I do, what can I stir up in the community to let other people speak up and say, hey, we need the Smart Ride in our community, that would be awesome.
Thank you very much.
Hi, my name is Glenn Jackson Jr., and I would appreciate if the board would approve money on the Smart Shuttle so that I can get to school easier.
Okay.
Good job.
Thank you very much.
Thank you.
Next item, please.
Your next item is a position on Proposition 6, which would repeal Senate Bill SB 1.
Last month, your board received a presentation on SB 1 and efforts to repeal it in light of Prop 6, which is the which would be in the November ballot to repeal SB 1. Afterward, your board asked for an opportunity to take a position on Prop 6, and I have prepared that for you in the form of a resolution opposing it. Before you begin your deliberation, I'd like to provide you with a new piece of information, which is this in front of you, and that is a complete listing of all the SB 1 projects in Sacramento County. Altogether, I count 156 projects in Sacramento County, with 7 more pending, totaling $1.466 billion.
Okay, thank you. We do have one speaker, Jeffrey.
I think you can make deliberation about this.
Okay.
Move approval of the resolution.
Second.
All in favor, vote. Ms. Frost?
I think everyone knows that probably most people know that I did not support SB 1, primarily because my district overwhelmingly opposed SB 1. And the reason that I'm hearing from my constituents is they didn't feel that state is properly prioritizing transportation dollars, and they're not sure their roads ever get fixed. And so because of that, I am not able to support opposing the repeal. I just wanted to publicly let everyone know why I'm voting not supporting this staff's recommendation.
Okay. Any other comments before we vote? Okay, all those in favor say aye.
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 Noes?
No.
Abstentions? Item passes. Any comments from authority members?
I think you had 8 votes on that.
What?
3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8. Then that motion did not pass. You need 9.
It's not the
I'm
majority
missing-
of members present?
Oh, you have a bare quorum right now.
Well, some boards that we're on, it's the majority of the
Of
members
those present? I'd have to check your rules of procedure.
The plot thickens.
Mm-hmm.
That was on the last board.
Yep. Yeah, we were in closed session with the majority of those present.
I think the chair is right.
Okay, here's the measure. I'll read the rule. So it still says 8, but the number should be 9 now. 9 members of the governing body constitute a quorum for the transaction of business, and all official acts of the governing body require the affirmative vote of not less than, it says 8, but that should be 9 of the members.
Mr. Cerna?
Thank you. In light of what council has just mentioned, Norm, are we going to have another SDA meeting, I assume, before?
Next one's in November.
November 8th is the next meeting.
Okay.
After the election.
This is our last opportunity to get on the books as
Could I just?
SSK. Mr. Natoli?
We have a SWA board meeting following this. Do we have anybody that may be arriving for that didn't make it for this board?
Eric Guerra will be here.
And Eric sits on this body?
Yeah.
So I'm just wondering if we could hang in there.
I'm going to have to leave, unfortunately.
Could you hold the role open as long as you maintain a quorum at some point? If you, I
But
guess.
we're not going to have a quorum. We only,
I know, I'm saying, but if you lose Mr. Hume, and if you got Mr. Guerra back in, you'd have still have the 9. And if,
we need one more. Who else is on that
oh, I get it.
SWA board?
Although if you, I said maintain the role.
On it?
No, is Patrick upstairs or around?
Wasn't earlier. Let me go ask.
Hear the Jeopardy music.
So if she can track down one more member, you'll need a motion to reconsider and then another vote.
You got it.
Who will be the deciding vote?
Patrick's not around.
That's what she's checking right now.
Ms. Frost, may I ask you a question?
Yes.
Given your stated objection, but the overwhelming majority of the board, would you give us a courtesy vote?
No, he's not there.
Is there a way to vote, have a quorum vote absent of an actual meeting? I don't know, either by paper ballot or...
Special meeting, and you can do a motion to reconsider. You still need 9 votes to reconsider the vote that just occurred, but you could schedule a special meeting to...
Well, we have a meeting scheduled for October 11th.
Madam Chair?
Mr. Cerna?
It appears that Councilmember Guerra is on his way and understands the urgent nature of this circumstance.
How many minutes is he away?
I don't know, as fast as he can run 2 blocks.
Can he Councilmember Guerra, right? Can he outrun Member Hume? Because Hume's going to go running the other way, so.
Can you stay?
He's going to chase you over the bridge.
I guess he's just parking right now.
Pardon?
I guess he's just parking right now.
Okay, I'll go take care of some other business that will get me out of here.
Do not leave the building, please.
Can we have a 5-minute recess?
Okay. Okay.
There we go. We're back from recess for the September 13th meeting of the Sacramento Transportation Authority.
I'll move to reconsider the last item.
Second?
Please vote.
Aye.
Aye.
No.
Okay.
Well, that was just the motion to reconsider.
Right, then we need another motion on the,
Sue doesn't even want to reconsider the item. That's how serious she is.
Abstain from that.
And the record should note that Director Guerra is here too, so you know how.
oh, yes.
Yeah.
I guess we should have taken roll, shouldn't we?
Probably a good idea. Yep.
Yes. Cruz.
Here.
Carr.
Aye.
Lowy. Frost. Gatewood. Gira.
Here.
Hanson.
Here.
Howe. Hume.
Here.
Kennedy. Natoli.
Here.
Peters.
Here.
Chenier. Cerna.
Here.
Suen.
Here.
Harris. Okay,
Okay.
you have a quorum.
Why don't we now do reconsideration?
Okay, I'll move to reconsider.
Second.
All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Noes or abstentions?
No.
Okay, item passes.
Yes.
Then
What's
we
Move
want.
the recommendation.
Okay.
Second?
Okay, so all in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
Noes or abstentions?
Are we doing it again?
Yeah. This is the,
No.
okay.
Okay.
This is on
All
the-
right, now it passes. Mr. Berg?
Yes,
Correctly.
you're all good now.
Okay. Okay, good luck with SWA getting up and going. Did my best.